Welcome to the Transform podcast. Delighted to have Reiss Gavin here from Charles Taylor, and we'll talk through some of what's going on in InsureTech, as well as a bit on his experience with Transparity's AI Factory.
I'm the head of London market application development and design for Charles Taylor InsureTech.
So amazing to have you here, Reiss.
Thank you.
I think we are really excited just to kind of dig into the context of where you guys are coming from the InsureTech space. So wanted to start with just some of the challenges that you guys are facing, doing more with less, a bit on needing to basically, facing pressure to modernize legacy applications. Where are you finding your organization at this point in time?
Well, I think organizationally, it's quite an exciting time at the moment. There's a lot happening in the technology space. Technology is adapting and advancing at a rapid pace. We primarily work in the London market in the UK, but we have clients across Latin America, the US, who have different challenges. So obviously our core is technology products for the insurance industry. And that can be from policy administration systems, fraud systems, delegated authority specifically for the London market. And obviously now venturing into AI and how AI can enhance our systems and add value to our clients. But also keeping in mind that AI is not magic.
Yeah.
And while there's a big drive to embrace it and see how it can be used, we're being very targeted in using it in ways that enhance organizations' ability, adds efficiency to them, without building a solution and then going looking for a problem.
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. Pressure to do more with less is something that's existed in insurance for a long time.
Oh, yes.
And it's finding out the right solutions at the right time. And working with you guys has been a bit of a passion project for me personally. My dad worked his entire career in reinsurance, and he actually developed a product that they still use, a piece of technology that's he developed in the 90s and is still being used to rectify different things from a financial standpoint. So
sounds like a lot of insurance systems from the 90s still being used.
Yeah, and that's where the opportunity, I think, to work together came up. Where did Transparity kind of come in to this world of looking to leverage AI, but in the right places?
Okay, so obviously our main platform, we're based on Microsoft. So we have quite a good relationship with Microsoft, and we were looking in the AI space, and we obviously have our own developers in that, but it's emerging, and that's not necessarily at the moment their core skill set around AI and agentic and agents and Python and that. So we had lots of discussions with Microsoft, and they obviously, as you know, as you're one, have their technology partners. So they recommended 3 to us, and we had a bit of a dog and pony show where people came and put their wares out there, and we gave them the concept and the idea, and basically let the 3 candidates come back. And to be fair, Transparity were head and shoulders above the rest in not only their understanding of what we were trying to achieve, but also the model they presented and how they would take the concept to a proof of value. So really, you guys won it on your own merits and the way the engagement and coming back and the understanding. And I think our decision to go with Transparity was born out where we had a number of workshops upstairs at Microsoft and obviously in our offices. And we came up with, if you like, a very simplistic straw man after a couple of workshops, and obviously we had some conversations, and Transparity came back and said, yeah, we'll have a proof of value working in 30 days, which, having worked in technology for about 20 years, I was really skeptical at, to be fair. But true to your word, you did. And you actually exceeded expectations. It did a lot more in a functionally rich way than we were expecting for, if you want, as a prototype, which I know everyone hates the word, but a proof of value. So that sort of reinforced and cemented that we'd made the right decision. And then as we got further into it, which I'm sure we'll come on to, around going from a proof of value to a working product, it's the model that you employ and the way you work is somewhat refreshing, but it actually delivers results.
That's really fantastic.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I remember when we kind of were working through that process with you, and you're like, well, if you can do what you say you're able to do, that'll be fantastic. And then, proving that out was really important to us. So that's fantastic to hear. I think let's delve into the actual solution a little bit. So for people that aren't as familiar with the insurance process and Bordereaux, we've kind of mentioned, what was that challenge that you were seeing from your customer base?
Okay, so if I take a step back for people who may not be aware, Bordereaux is a very easy way for brokers or cover holders or TPAs, DCAs to give a lot of data to the person who's underwriting the insurance. It's just an Excel spreadsheet with lots of columns on it and lots of rows of data. Now, that's really good for moving vast volumes of data easily. It's really bad for data quality because at the end of the day, you can put anything you want on an Excel spreadsheet. Doesn't matter. Now, we have a Bordereaux management solution which takes those spreadsheets, it processes them, cleanses and validates the data, and then gives it data feeds into a data warehouse, and then insurers can take and do that. Because Bordereaux exists, as insurers write business worldwide, but they don't necessarily have a license to write the business in all the jurisdictions. So they have what's called delegated authority, which is effectively going to someone, you have a license to operate in that territory, you can sell insurance on my behalf. That's simplistically what it is. So our Bordereaux management solution, and I'm sure a lot of them out there, when they process that data, they will find errors. They will find failings in the rules. They will find breaches in limits. Some of the data can be fixed in the systems, but a lot of the times you have to back the data out of the system and you have to go back to the person who sent it to you to get the corrections. So it's inefficient. It takes a lot of manual effort. And unfortunately, a lot of systems will allow users to accept bad data. So that then bad data then flows into downstream systems, and over time, you can find firms making decisions on dubious data. And I've got lots of examples of that. So this is a real problem for our customers, and it's a real problem for the insurance industry. So we looked at it and thought, how can we solve this problem, or try and solve this problem? And AI was sort of becoming slightly more embedded. It was slightly more reliable than the earliest LLMs. And a lot of the data issues are either someone's transposed dates, they've transposed numbers, they've put data in the wrong columns, and there's a wealth of information out there that AI can use. So we created an application called Bordereaux Sync, which is AI powered and uses AI to correct the data as best it can. Now, I'm not suggesting someone just trusts AI. So part of the application will also tell the user what it's corrected, what the original value was, and it produces an AI created Bordereaux. The user can then process the AI Bordereaux or process the original Bordereaux, but they know what all the problems are. And working with Transparity, it does what it says on the tin. It does fix the data. It's Bordereaux agnostic, so risk, premium, claims, risk and premium. And the brilliance about AI is the way we've built it is it only works on a customer's data. We don't share multi-customer data. So it's always learning on a customer's data. And because AI can learn, it's not reliant on a human to keep tell it the answer, where a lot of the Bordereaux management solutions need a human to tell it the answer. But it still has that check and balance where it will go back to a human and say, hey, I found this and I've changed it to this. And the other beauty of it is it has the ability, if it knows who to contact, can go back to the person who submitted the data, tell them what the error is, ask them for the answer or the correction, and then input that correction. So that's taking, a very laborious manual task away from someone who would otherwise have to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is such a great example for people listening to think about different processes that might be onerous, might have multiple people engaged. another element of this is kind of the data element. So keeping data clean and making sure that decisions that are follow-on decisions are made off the right information.
Yeah, indeed.
So those are kind of through lines that I think are really helpful in kind of thinking about, okay, what might be a good application of AI to, a project or a problem that we're kind of working with.
Yeah, and I guess the beauty of our application, while it's primarily been built and designed for Bordereaux and delegated authority, at the end of the day, it's validating data. So we can quite easily pivot and use that functionality and technology over other data sets. And we've obviously got a number of different towers within Charles Taylor or CTI. So I'm having conversations with my colleagues who, one of the teams that put our policy admin system in and develop and deploy that, they're finding their customers have similar sort of challenges around data. So we're looking at seeing, well, how can our learnings and our technology be pivoted to support other towers and their capabilities and needs of their clients.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really, really cool. Like taking the learnings. I mean, similar to what the actual Bordereaux Sync does, is you're taking these learnings and then you can apply them to other elements, but with safety and within kind of the plans that you guys have to serve your clients across the firm. Digging a little bit into making the Bordereaux Sync product more real. Obviously, you engage Transparity in our AI Factory, and just wanted to know a little bit more about your experience with the AI Factory process, what differentiated it with maybe other ways that you've worked with other partners in the past. What's it been like?
It's been really good, really positive. And obviously my team is working closely with the AI Factory team at Transparity. But, the three key things that stand out to me for it is, one, the flexibility to change. The collaborative development, which is really important, and the complex challenges into workable designs. And to touch on those, because the tool is new and we're having we sort of test and learn, and we're having sort of trialing it with some of our customers, getting their feedback. It's a moving target almost. And what we found with the AI Factory so far, touch wood, is that no matter the change that we throw at them, the way they operate, they're very flexible and being able to pivot and making changes. So much so, we had one example where we did a demo to a client in the morning and we sort of spotted something. And we spoke to them. We had another demo to the client in the afternoon, and it was a bit odd just going, "Oh, look, they fixed it." So it is that real-time, instantaneous change, and I think that comes from having a dedicated team at the Transparity side, a dedicated team in the CTI side as well, and they work together. In terms of collaborative development, the big thing we found is we haven't had death by workshop. It's always been like there's been one very intensive 2-day workshop. And, to be fair, I don't think Transparity are insurance experts by any sense of the imagination, but they took time to understand the problem, and that early understanding the concepts and the problem and not being scared to say when they don't understand something or ask for clarification. And the beauty of that is because we have a good working relationship and it is dedicated. It's not a customer-vendor relationship in the traditional sense. It's more one team. And the way that we, not only are we leveraging Transparity to the early days of development, the progression and the robustness, but there's also a substream, which is the knowledge transfer and being able to take, more ownership ourselves, but unfortunately the speed of development, that's taking a little bit longer than desired, but that's life.
Yeah, that's a big piece of the AI Factory as well that we find is that kind of knowledge transfer, helping our clients understand what tech to use and when, why we've made the decisions that we've had. So I think that's kind of a really helpful element. And I would say that it's felt like one team from our standpoint as well. Yeah. One thing I thought that you did that was brilliant that we were just talking about was the fact that you brought in IT, but you also brought in the sales guys that were going to be selling the solution and pitching it, who really understand the client problems into at least one of our workshops. And then they've been kind of off to the races in terms of presenting the right things to the right clients at the right time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn a little bit more about how you orchestrated that from your point of view, because a big thing that we talk about with these workshops is really getting different points of view into the room together. So how did you pull that off?
Well, I could say I just told them.
Okay, yeah. Voluntelling works. Yeah.
You volunteered. No, look, in organisations, there's many functions, and each function has experts in it. But I'm a great believer in no silos. And even if someone sits in a 2-hour workshop or a 2-day workshop, that can be technical. They will glean something. And it could be just that little nugget that is the difference between a sale and not a sale. And also, you can have the world's greatest product, but if you can't market it and you can't sell it, and the people selling it don't understand it, it's going to go nowhere. So it's good to get that feedback from, say, the non-technical people around, give us a scenario. How would you go and sell this? What do you need to show? Because you get from the designers and the developers, they might know it intimately and how it works, but they've got no idea how to sell it. So again, you have great tech, but no one can visualize it or understand it, and it's almost like the touch feel. So by getting the sales guys in there, they sort of understand it, and to be fair, they have good contributions to make in their own special sales way.
Yeah, they were brilliant. Yeah, I totally agree. And even that felt like one team, because sometimes you'll have, IT or sales and bring in kind of cross-functional groups, but we were all driving towards one thing.
Yeah.
I really remember them, contributing their own kind of sales way, but really helpful in thinking about just different things to add to the product. So that was fantastic. You also mentioned kind of the pace and the speed at delivery.
Yeah.
How important was that to you, and in terms of like reporting up on what you're delivering?
Yeah, unfortunately, no IT development's free.
Right.
So, to be fair, CTI has taken a bit of a risk in terms of investing in this technology, but it was important to us, to be able to have something tangible, not the finished working product, but just conceptually could show that it did what we said it would do. And, when you're going in to talk to the COO or the CTO, they're not the people who are going to be using the tool, but they're going to be the ones that sign the checks,
right, or
make the recommendation. So they've got to see value, and you have to pitch it in a way that this is the benefit it brings to your organization. You're not really, on one hand, you're selling them a bit of software, but you're also selling them it's either got to grow their bottom line, it's got to reduce their cost, or it's got to drive efficiencies, which in turn reduce their cost. Now, Bordereaux Sync is not going to grow anyone's bottom line, but it's going to improve their efficiency and it's going to reduce their cost. And if you can show them that, how it will do that as part of the overall sales pitch, and they can understand that, that's a big win. But also, they're not going to buy into something that they say, that looks really good, when can we have it? Oh, a year and a half.
Right. Yeah, it's that sweet spot, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think working with Transparity, we've managed to get the way the AI factory operates, and it sort of brings me back to the complex challenges, is at the end of the day, this is all about data, and AI is really good with data, and looking at data, understanding data, and highlighting inconsistencies in data. So one, we're using AI for something that's really good at today. But two, working with Transparity and the one team and the workshops, they were able to understand complex data problems relatively quickly. And I've worked on other IT projects where you have sort of the business and IT, and it's siloed, and it's death by workshop, because IT can't grasp the data nuances and the problems a lot of the time. That's not actually black and white. There are people that cross over, but it's a generalization. But you guys have been able to understand the vagaries and the interpretation, and because at the end of the day, it is really unstructured data that you're starting with. It might have the illusion of structure, but if I go back to, it's just an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
You can put anything in it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we found helped the speed. And also, because everything was collaborative and the planning was collaborative, although we keep changing the goalposts, we fixed on, we're using Agile, we're doing in sprints, we know what the releasable artifact at the end of the sprint has to be. And we've also introduced another third party into the equation who have, and call it AI/automated testing tool. And again, we've worked collaboratively with Transparity, with ourselves and with them. And that's moved us forward as a step change. So almost as something's being developed, it's being tested at the same time using agents within the test tool. So it's shrunk the life cycle,
right?
But without compromising on quality. And it's a bit odd, we've got AI testing AI, but it's...
Hopefully it creates itself in a honest way.
Yeah, it does. No, we've got some really strong guardrails around the testing AI.
Perfect.
Yeah, but it lets us find things early. And it's like the fail fast mentality, but we're failing fast than we would with humans. We don't have to feed the AI, give it days off, let it sleep. So, it's good.
That's fantastic. So taking kind of a step away from Bordereaux Sync specifically, just in terms of the applications of these kinds of ideas on other elements within the insurance space, what else are you excited about? Like, what's kind of next on the horizon for you?
Well, Bordereaux Sync is one of our AI strands. We've done a lot of work around AI WhatsApp. So, and this is more in the general insurance space, but that's where, if you have an insurance policy, and let's say it's a motor policy and you want to drive to Europe, you can use WhatsApp to contact your insurance company. And it's got an AI agent that's powered there that can find your policy, it can find the exclusions, it can say if you're covered to drive in Europe. If you're not, it can add it into your policy, it can raise the premium for the... I've forgotten the technical term now. The endorsement, that's it. And that, there's a lot of benefit in that. Probably not so much in the London market, to be fair. But, there's general insurance, there's life insurance, so we're looking at that. We've also done a lot with voice AI for call centers. And the thing is, it's not to replace people. It's a lot of the very easy questions the voice AI can handle, and it can have a conversation. It's got to the stage now, it can just have a natural conversation. And I guarantee if you got someone to ring a call center and one number was a human and one number was AI, you couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, we're doing a lot in kind of connected customer service as well. It's a really key area where I think we can improve the quality of interactions from the customer point of view. So that's really fantastic that you're kind of digging in there. What do you think the challenges that are kind of facing the insurance space? What do you think are the hurdles that might be slowing or stopping these things from accelerating?
Yes, ironically, the insurance industry is very risk averse. I think it's one of those things. It's like, when the internet first launched, you had like seniors, we've got to be on the internet, but what does it actually mean? And AI is about, we've got to be using AI. And I think the problem is AI, as I said, is not magic. It needs structure, it needs to learn, it needs understanding, and it needs to be applied to a specific problem. And it's finding out what that problem is. But obviously, there's a lot in the fraud detection space it can do. As I said, there's a lot in the sort of the general inquiry space it can do. We're doing a lot of stuff with data, Bordereaux Sync. It's finding the use case. And it's not necessarily, the use case doesn't have to be client facing. The use case could be internal, but it's using AI in a thought about structured way. So it's actually solving a problem, but it's understanding, how is it going to solve that problem? What's your desired outcome? And I don't think it's necessarily restricted to insurance. It's emerging, it's new technology. And I did ask ChatGPT, but, like in 2024, globally, there was £16 billion a month spent on AI development, which is A, phenomenal, and B, unsustainable. So at some point it's going to slow down, and I think it's going to get to the point where people start thinking, okay, the shiny new toy, great, now how do we practically apply it? So I don't think there's a reluctance to embrace it within the insurance industry. finding the specific way, do it. And obviously the other way is AI, it's not cheap at the moment. So, there's a considerable amount of investment, whether it's a prototype or it's buying a product, and you want to see a return on that investment, as any company wants to.
1,000%. We'd spend a lot of time working with our clients to find the right use cases that will generate that ROI. And any kind of tips that you would have as someone that successfully managed to get the investment on something that you thought would be valuable.
I think it's spend time on. So there's two ways to do it. You can either set up an R&D team and accept the fact they're going to burn some cash, but go to the business and ask them, what's the problem? If we could solve one thing that would make your life better, what is it? Now, maybe AI can help, maybe it can't, but it's spending that time to validate the use case or the problem, and also knowing what you want the outcome to be. So you can't just give AI a problem and ta-da, there's the answer. It's got to, it learns, it has to know what you want it to achieve. And, sometimes there's nothing wrong with trying and failing, but there's also that bit of human ingenuity and review to say, actually, is this the right technology to solve that problem? Yeah,
absolutely. And why would you say it's important to have a partner like Transparity, would you say?
Well, okay, I'll be careful here. You've got to understand your own limitations and your own too. So, if you take IT, that's a very broad brush term and covers a lot of different things. So if you want to accelerate and you want to sort of be at the forefront or ahead of the curve, if you don't have those skills in-house, even if you went and hired people, it's going to take time, there's going to be delay. If you're trying to upskill your incumbent teams, you can't forget about your current customers, your applications, your BAU. So, we looked at it as a way of an accelerator, and that, and because you have key competencies in this area, and also you do work with Microsoft and your Microsoft technology partner, we're on a Microsoft stack, so there's a lot of synergies there and a lot of understanding just out of the box. You don't have to become familiar with our platforms, you don't have to become familiar with Microsoft technology. You know what's coming out from Microsoft, you know what can potentially enhance or be adapted and sort of keep the momentum, but sort of also then get ahead of the curve. And I think that's really important because, yes, we could have built this from scratch ourselves, but it would have taken a hell of a lot of longer than it has. And we would be showing someone a prototype and saying, oh yeah, in 2 years, we'll come back and you can have it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's a big element, especially within IT, of, keeping the lights on, which is really critical. You're dealing with business critical functions just on a day-to-day level. So finding someone that can help you accelerate as you keep the lights on at the same time can be really useful, I think.
And I think the other big benefit is we have involved our IT team. So it's not like doing it in a darkened basement. So even though they're not, I guess, participating actively, they're in all the meetings, they're in the conversations, there's learning by osmosis and that sort of thing. So it's, that's another beneficial and Transparity, quite happy to work that way. And it's also like in another way, you don't want to be doing this forever. You want to at some point say, no, it's yours now, go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that knowledge transfer piece of it is definitely built into the project. And then, thinking about the future of Bordereaux Sync, what's kind of next on the list? What's to come?
Well, we have a very long backlog.
A long list.
It's a long list. So, Bordereaux Sync's standalone application, and it's purposely designed that way, and it's designed to work with any Bordereaux management solution. However, we have our own, so we want to give added value to the customers who are using ours, and also start selling it as potentially a package. So it does what it says on the tin. It's good. So we've productionized it, or it's almost productionized from the trial version. And now we're looking at how can we enhance what AI does? How can it learn further? So we're integrating with a small eye to our Bordereaux management solution, Tide, or coupling it. And that leverages greater functionality. So, as I said earlier, if data's missing or it can't find the correct correction for bad data, it has to go back and ask someone. But with our, coupling it with our Bordereaux management solution, a lot of those answers already reside in our solution. so it can go and look at our solution and find the answers. So then that speeds up the process. And, without going into insurance just for a second, think something called return premium. So you've got a policy, you've paid your premium, you cancel partway through, you're owed some money back normally. Those refunds come through on the Bordereaux, but you've got no idea if it's the right amount. So with Bordereaux Sync, when it's coupled, it can go and see how much the original premium is, what's been paid, is the refund the right amount? And if it's not, then it can identify someone, and tell someone that it's wrong. So there may not be step changes in functionality per se, but the step changes in what it gives to the end users and how it speeds up their process and how it alerts them to issues a lot earlier in the life cycle. Now, with delegated, the problem is you're always getting information after the event. So it may have already happened, but they're finding out there's been an error sooner. And that's really valuable to firms when you're talking about real money.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds really, really powerful, and definitely things that my dad's work in the reinsurance industry is kind of echoed. He's always talking about premiums and how to make sure that everything's accurate. Ultimately, it's really, really important decisions.
And we're looking at as going back to us, we're looking at various use cases. Some of them might fly, some not, but also around what can we do around fraud. Now, again, delegated, the fraud's already happened. But if AI can be used to help detect it or anomalies, or especially around claims Bordereaux, especially around catastrophic events, which I appreciate aren't great, but
But be prepared, exactly.
Yeah, and and then what are those learnings that we can take to our other towers? So we have fraud solutions. We're looking at what can AI do around there that's more real time. It's more at first notification of loss, those sorts of things. So it's great in the way we can build something functionally that we know addresses a real problem in the market. We can enhance it, but then how do we move that from sort of moving it further to the left to the point where it's happening real time and it's giving those insights and warnings and capabilities to people that maybe they wouldn't pick up.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of my next question, was if we gave you a crystal ball, what would the insurance industry look like in a couple of years? But I think you're talking about that more real-time activation.
And I think this is going to send. I think the real big change, and I'll stand to be corrected here, is the way technology is moving, and not technology per se for the insurance industry. But if I take automation, so driverless trains, driverless cars, driverless planes, pilotless planes. That is, and this is staying away from London market, but, today people take insurance out to give them some security in case an event happens. And if it happens, normally insurance is to put them back in the place they were before the event. But if they take driverless cars and it's in an accident, who's liable? The person who owns the car, the person who made the car, the person who supplied the software.
Programmed the car.
Programmed the car. And so, people will still have motor insurance, but the content of that may change as technology adapts and the way these, assets, things operate. And then the other one we were talking about is there's this big fear that AI is going to take jobs. So what are the new products? And if I give anyone an idea, I want commission here. What new product, are you going to have such things like as AI insurance? Yeah, you are. But is a human going to be able to take AI insurance out in case they lose their job to AI? So,
fascinating.
It's not necessarily what's technology going to do directly for insurance. It's what's the indirect impact it's going to have. And also, using the real-time information, predictive models, taking data from disparate sources, putting it all together, giving a view. And people have always gone about predictive analytics, which has always been kind of like nice to have. But I think getting to the stage where the prediction can probably become a lot more accurate than some of the older technology purported to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just was in San Francisco for the Microsoft Ignite conference, and there's driverless cars zooming around I was trying to make eye contact with one when I was crossing the street to make sure everything was good and not sure that I could get that back. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of what is the downstream application from an insurance standpoint? What does that mean for all of us? Really fascinating. And then, the data all coming together in near real time. I mean, you can even bring in weather patterns to determine what types of policies people need. So yeah, I think there's a lot ahead, and it's just really exciting how you've already made a start with something that has real impact for your clients. So thanks for sharing.
That's all right.
Any last comments or things that you want to share with our podcast listeners?
It's exciting times around technology. I think, with all things, you have to approach it with an air of caution. Don't blindly trust AI. And make sure you're using it in the right way for the right challenge. And I couldn't recommend more highly than, if you don't have those skills, find companies that do and partner with them, but collaboratively, because you will get a lot more out of the relationship than a traditional customer vendor type arrangement. And you will be able to hopefully move things forward at a great rate of knots with a positive outcome.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Reiss. Really appreciate all of your thoughts and leadership here. It's been fantastic partnering with you on this, and really, the collaborative approach has been fantastic. Thanks to all of our listeners who have listened to the podcast. Hope you've gotten some insights from Reiss and how he's really brought AI into reality for his customers with a cross-functional team. Hopefully some tips and tricks that you can use as you go on your AI journey.